I'm Tim Ventura, and we're joined today by Lieutenant General Stephen Kwast, who retired from service in 2019 as the commander of the Air Education and Training Command, where he was responsible for training over 293,000 students per year. Steve is a decorated veteran with over 650 combat flight hours and a 33-year career in the Air Force with over 30 awards and decorations, including the Air Force Distinguished Service Medal, Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, and the Bronze Star. He joins us today to discuss the military and economic trends driving the creation of the Space Force in late 2019. So Steve, welcome back, sir. Let me thank you again for your remarkable record of service, as well as for your many years of space advocacy. You have a grand vision for space, for America's future in space. I'm wondering if I could start out by asking about that and what kind of economic opportunities you see emerging from the commercial space industry.
Well, thank you for that very warm and exuberant introduction. You know, like most people know, you can never believe what you hear. You got to, it's what have I done for you lately is really the key attribute in life. Keep working hard for other people, and good things generally happen. So I appreciate all that. Your central question here about space, the Space Force, really is grounded in a much broader observation of people like myself, historians, people who study culture, who study geopolitics, and who study technology and the power relationships between civilizations, which is really the core of trying to carve out a peaceful coexistence of sovereign people with different values. And when you study that deeply, many of us in that sector have seen for a long time this emerging new economy in space that will change everything. And the technologies are going to uplift the potential for the human species to do things they've never done before. And the real trick here is to walk through that upcoming journey peacefully and not repeat histories of the past, or repeat history where change is associated with violence and regret because people are afraid, or they do things that lash out because they're afraid for their security. And so historically, as a student of history and these struggles, the most probable way of taking this journey peacefully is to provide for the rule of law and the respect for every human being that's engaged in the new thing that's happening. And the new thing that's happening is the space economy. And we also know that strong economic vibrance in a country and globally is at the root of all national security. And so this is such an exciting time to be alive, because we are watching a shift in the arc of history where space and space technologies are going to allow people on Earth to do all kinds of things they haven't been able to do before. And they're going to be able to usher in an uplifting of the human condition, more people lifted out of poverty, solving our dilemmas of the environment, and providing for options for the human race against any unexpected event. It is so exciting and so fun, but the journey is slow. People don't like change, and so you have to have this one attribute, and that's happy persistence, where you can tell the story, you can work hard, and you don't let it get you down when people aren't moving as fast as they might otherwise be able to move.
Yeah, that makes sense. You gave an absolutely pivotal speech at Hillsdale College. I've watched that 4 or 5 times. And in that, this goes back a couple of years, you outlined 4 major engines for economic growth: for transportation, information, manufacturing, and energy. And I think these probably kind of form the basis, right, for this new commercial space economy that's going to lift people up. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about growth in commercial space sector and how those, I guess, how those dovetail together and drive the need for the Space Force, and how it may in turn help foster future commercial growth.
Right. So, that's an excellent question, and one that we can unpack a little bit here. But I'll start with, some people get disconnected when they see my current position as the president of a water company, a company that is pulling water out of the air efficiently. But the connection is that this journey that we're going to take into the economy of space needs to be peaceful, and it needs to be done in a way that is kind to Mother Nature and kind to human beings. Those are the mistakes we've made in the past as a human race, where when we usher in the age, like the nuclear age, or we usher in mechanization, or all of these other things, people get hurt, the environment gets hurt. And it's a sad story in many pockets and corners. So sustainable development of a space economy is the predicate to make sure we are kind to Mother Nature, that we're taking care of this beautiful inheritance we have as a human race, and it's called the universe. So one, we want to be good stewards of that. So water is the economic potential of any society, and it will be the economic potential of the cislunar environment. And the more you study water as the foundation, you understand it's really about water, energy, and food for the human race to be beautiful and to thrive. And so the Space Force fits in here because when you're going out into this wild, wild west, if you do not have a guardian class of people that are willing to abide by the rule of law, meaning this international agreement we have where you respect other people, you respect other cultures, and you respect the fact that if somebody puts hard work into something, you shouldn't steal it away. And if you do, there's somebody that's going to hold you accountable. This is just part of the messiness of the human condition, is that there will be a small minority of people that will try to get away with murder, sometimes figuratively, sometimes literally. And if you don't have a guardian force that can hold them accountable, they get away with it, because the average person may not be able to compete with their resources or their aggressiveness or their evil acts. And this is why a Space Force is so important as one of the first steps. It's kind of a wedge in history, so that when we do come upon that evil person that tries to do something dastardly in space, whether it's creating debris that needs to be cleaned up, or stealing the economic energy of somebody else that is building a business, there has to be something that holds them accountable. This is why we have a Navy. The global commerce of the open oceans are only viable because of the navies of the world that come together, so that pirates, thieves, and thugs do not reign free in the open oceans. We're going to need the same in space, and the Space Force is that guardian force, and that's one reason why they're called guardians.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a moment ago, you mentioned Genesis Systems, and I will put some links in the interview notes to that. And what you guys are doing there, this is also transformational technology, literally pulling water out of thin air on an industrial scale. And this is potable drinking water. And, so that's one of them. But I mean, you're involved also, and you've talked about many other just absolutely remarkable technologies. One of the ones that blew my mind was point-to-point rocket transportation from any 2 points on the Earth, literally taking a rocket, getting in it, and just, the SpaceX type that lands itself. That's one. Another that's emerging is space-based beam solar energy. And that's something that the US and China are both working on. And then you talked about mobile charging capabilities for drones and electric vehicles from space. So could you tell me a little bit more about some of the big idea technologies that you're most excited about that we can look forward to?
Right. So the exciting thing about this nexus of energy, water, and food as the basis for all civilization is very exciting, and I'll start there. Okay, and then we can talk about other techniques of that. But I would basically say that there are 7 pillars of prosperity for the human race, and they are, food, water, shelter, energy, information, transportation, and healthcare. Okay, so that we can be healthy and safe, and you wrap that all in the ability to defend all of that, and then you have something magical. But yes, space is going to transform some of these essential elements, and we'll talk about energy first. Um, it's hard for people to sometimes wrap their brain around something that's really a total paradigm shift. But I'll use the historical example. If we were sitting here in 1890 right now, and you were a man that lit your home with a candle, and you went to work on your horse, and you heated your home with a potbelly stove and the wood that you chopped down from the tree on your land, to come, and you had never seen any other method for heating your home or lighting your home with candles. And I came to you and said, hey, someday soon, everybody's going to have electricity, meaning there will be this wire, but don't touch it, it'll kill you, okay? And it's going to come into your home. And if you screw it up, it'll burn down your home, but don't worry about it. Eventually, everybody's going to have this. You would look at me like I had a third eye. And you would say, why would I want to adopt something that's more expensive, dangerous, and is not readily available? Just give me a cheaper candle and cheaper wood and a healthier horse, and I'll be just fine. But this is what we have emerging right now. Most people may not realize that when Tesla and Edison were arguing over what type of electricity we should deliver to people, Edison was essentially put it into a wire and send it to the customer, and then they can turn on their light bulb or whatever it is they want to do with it. And Tesla was like, no, there's a superior idea, and that is we can beam the power, because power is just, like AM and FM radio. Those radio waves are a form of energy that the radio has been adapted or built to receive and then work. The same is true with electricity. You can energize things through beamed power that is safer for human beings than the sunshine is. Sunshine has radiation and it does damage over time. Think about beaming power to all your devices, because the devices are built that way, using beamed power that's safer than sunshine. And people will think about that and say, well, wait a minute, my phone can't do that. And the answer is, well, yeah, because it's built to run on high intensity energy. But there are very clever people that are doing some amazing things with regard to beamed energy and the ability to energize devices and build devices to be able to work on a fraction of the energy. We are like energy hogs. It's been designed to work on high intensity energy. Therefore, that's what you need. And you got to plug it in every few minutes. It doesn't have to be that way. Just like we're trapped with cell phones and cell towers, where you need to be close to a cell tower, until a very brilliant entrepreneur named Charles Miller invented a technique and a company called Link, that your cell phone sees the satellite and it tricks your current cell phone into thinking the satellite is a cell tower. And now you don't need 600,000 cell towers in America. And even then you go into a valley or into the desert and you get no service. Now your phone can have 4 bars of 5G capability anywhere on the planet, as long as it can see a satellite. And as we know, with GPS, you can see a satellite just about anywhere. So the same is true with energy, and it's going to come our way. It's just a matter of time and how many young companies are willing to adapt their business models to move away from the candle lighting the house to the electrical light bulb lighting the house, from the horse that takes you to your work to a car that takes you to your work, and the potbelly stove to the central air conditioner and heater. That's the transition we're going to see in energy, and that's going to be fun to watch. I'll stop there, and then we can talk about the other 2 or 3 that you talked about. But I know I don't want to go too long on any of them, because you can get pretty deep pretty quick.
Yeah, there's a lot there. It's so interesting to me. I just upgraded gas in my area. Gas is around $5.50 a gallon now. And so I just invested in a Tesla. And so when you mentioned Tesla and Wardenclyffe Tower, the Beam Tower project, that reminded me of what's going on right now in electric vehicles as well. And it's amazingly transformational. There are so many transformational technologies happening right now. I mean, and it has drawbacks. I have electricians actually coming over today for the world's most expensive charger install, but in terms of, it's just no more gas. I mean, I drive the car home, I plug it in, and it's good in about a day,
Right. Well, this brings up the conversation of sustainability and why Genesis Systems is bringing water to your drinking glass sustainably. And it's because water takes a lot of energy to create, whether it's desal or whether it's pumping it out of an aquifer and then filtering it so it's clean, or adding the chemicals to it. And that Tesla is not free either. The amount of energy it takes to build that Tesla, and then the amount of rare earth metals it takes. So for the human race to start becoming more knowledgeable about what sustainability really is really important. So the water technology that's been invented by Genesis Systems, yes, it solves the problem of water on the earth because it can transition water that's in molecules in the air and transition it in volume. So you have abundant clean water, and Mother Nature replenishes it into the air within 9 minutes, just about anywhere in the world you are. That's a sustainable solution if you do it with only sun power and geothermal cooling. Okay, that's how Mother Nature intends it. You don't need to use fossil fuel or any kind of energy that is not sustainable. And the sunshine is sustainable until the sun burns out. Then we've got bigger problems. But even the Tesla, even though it transitions to electricity, that electricity comes at a high price of sustainability. There's just not that much lithium, forever as we move past 8 billion people. And there's not that much fossil fuel that's being burned to create the batteries, to create the plastics. You can see that when you take a look at the sustainability footprint of something, it's a big deal. So our water generation technology is truly sustainable, the first one ever. And it's going to be what Elon Musk will use when he goes to Mars, because it transitions the water. Right now, there's a lot of water on the planet, okay? You just fly over the ocean, 70% of the earth is water, okay? Why do we have a water scarcity problem? Well, it's because we always wait as a human race for it to rain before we gather our water. And that's either in an aquifer that took 1,000 years to charge, or a river that is quicker, or in all of the other forms, desal, of course, that pollutes the ocean and it pollutes the landfills with all the cakey brine. So our system takes the reality that there's as much water on the planet, this spaceship called Mother Earth, there's as much water as there was 100 million years ago. It's just either in the ice caps, the ocean, your body, the air, or the plants. Our system just transitions it from the air that has such abundant water, most people don't realize, and puts it into your cup. And now you don't have to go to the aquifer. You don't have to worry about somebody having chemicals seep into your water, or the lead pipes that are poisoning you over time because it's old infrastructure. It's truly cutting the cord on water, so you don't need pipes. You can have it right there on demand, on command, anywhere you want, with sustainable energy. And when we're in space, it will be the thing that manages water, because water will protect you from radiation, so you can live in a beautiful environment as you're traveling either on a spaceship or in a colony in space. It then can transition to the air, the plants, to the animals, to the beauty, even the clouds within the spaceship or the spacecraft or the ecosystem that you create. Water is the essential element of life. And with the sun's energy and water and earth, you can do everything you need to have a platform for civilization that you can create anywhere in the universe. That's the promise we're talking about here, and why space is so important, because it is the human race's escape valve from the dilemmas we're creating by polluting the earth and crowding the earth. It can allow us to spread out, and it can allow us to go beyond the gravity well into space if we design it with sustainability in mind. That's a really important point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and again, the work you guys are doing at Genesis is amazing. I mean, having seen like the cargo container video, right? The water cube, and having seen basically David Zuckerberg had just gone over and turned on a spigot on the side, and it just starts producing a stream of pure water right out of the air. and
Yeah.
and you can plop those down anywhere, and they work wonderfully. So now,
Yeah.
in addition to the United States, China is also moving forward rapidly with space. So if we don't get there, our rivals will get there. And they haven't missed a milestone in their space program in over 30 years, and they're on a trend line to possibly pass us technologically. Do you think they might put up roadblocks in space once they gain this ultimate strategic high ground? Is that a concern?
Well, one of the key elements of people in national security, like myself, is this one job description statement that's very short. Be prepared for the unexpected. Okay. You can't predict the future, and you can't predict what China's going to do. If we're all fortunate and China is filled with saints, they will be benevolent and respectful of the American culture and our values of respecting people, no matter what they look like, no matter how they speak their language, and no matter what they believe. But we want to be prepared for the unexpected. And the unexpected is that maybe China starts treating others in space, the space economy, like they treat the Uyghurs or the Tibetans or Hong Kong, or their own people, where if you do not bow to the Chinese Communist Party ideology, you can't get a loan. Your kids can't go to the good school. You can't shop in the good store. The perverse incentives on liberty, freedom, and free will, and the ability to provide for your family, and not have government micromanage your pursuit of happiness. These are the things we value. So the big point here is not to be afraid of the fact that somebody may get there before us or not, but be prepared, because whoever gets there first will set the values. Whoever gets there first, all you have to do is look at their culture and look at how they treat their own people and their neighbors. And that is how they will set the rules for the new system. It won't matter if the international community says one thing. Whoever gets there first sets the rules. It's just a natural part of life. And that's why I would rather have the American values of every person being respected, and every single person abiding by a set of rules and laws that we all collectively agree to, so that the individual person can make a living. And if somebody lies, steals, or cheats, there is rule of law that will hold them accountable, so we can all play by the same rules. And it's not that, we have to be, it's just a practical part of human nature. It would be like having cars on roads and no rules, meaning just a simple line down the middle, and the rule of you drive on the right-hand side of the line makes it a peaceful coexistence. No rules, and you have accidents all over the place because you can't predict what other people are doing. So predictability is the key foundation for all entrepreneurs to make risk decisions and create wealth, create solutions, invent novel things that are useful to human beings. That's what we're talking about here with the Space Force and an international community. Set the rules based on the production of an economy, and then hold people accountable to those rules so they don't drive on the wrong side of the road, create a head-on collision, kill everybody. And it was avoidable with a simple rule.
Yeah, and in today's space race seems very different than the original one back in the 60s. Back then, it was intertwined with the development of nuclear weapons, but today it's more of a contest for economic dominance. And I think one of the things that you've suggested in the past is that the Space Force should function a bit like the Coast Guard, right? To safeguard commerce, and as you just mentioned, the rule of law and this new off-world economy. So
That's
you're
right.
saying that they basically they would create this rule of law basically anywhere in this space commerce zone, and then folks would have to abide by that if they're functioning, if they're asteroid mining or doing anything like that.
Yeah, so there's an important point here. They will not set the rule set. It'll be the international community. It'll be the political class around the world that basically says, okay, let's draw a line, and you drive on the right side of that line, and everybody's good. There doesn't have to be a lot of rules. One of the great quotes from the legal world is, if you have a country with a lot of laws, you have lazy lawyers. or lazy legislators where they'll just slap a law if there's a problem. Good law has very few rules, so people have freedom to maneuver and to do new things and try new things. So yes, it would be the international community setting a rule, such as do not create debris in space because it's dangerous. And then if somebody is intentionally or flagrantly creating debris in space, the Space Force would be the entity, along with every other country in the world that has any capability up there, to be able to say, hey, stop that, please. And if they don't, you can force them to stop it before somebody dies.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and that's kind of the fundamental for any type of legislation is enforceability, right? So, yeah, once we legislate that, it needs to be able to be enforced. Now, I also wanted to ask about where Russia fits into things. And I think today's situation is a little bit more complicated because of what's going on in Ukraine. But, China seems like they are pushing forward full throttle. Russia has been a traditional rival in space, but they've also worked with us in so many ways. Do you see them continuing to be kind of an on again, off again partner, or are they falling behind a bit, do you think?
Uh, Russia is one of the most creative societies with regard to their engineers, their scientists. I mean, they are wicked smart, and that's a good thing for the human race. Okay, so a journey doesn't have to necessarily predict whether they'll work with us or not, whether they'll fall off or they'll accelerate. Um, we can take it one step at a time based on behavior and based on the conditions at the time. So, and creating an environment where there are open doors to collaboration. But if deceit or bad behavior is detected, again, there's a way of holding accountable. And so the other piece of this space economy that's really important to keep in mind is it is so powerful in the network effect of space, meaning that the example would be like cell towers. It would take a company building 600,000 cell towers in America to get any kind of reasonable coverage for your cell phone. But they can probably do the same thing with 50 satellites because of the nature of the network. It's not linear and it's not trapped by the terrestrial line of sight problems of the Earth. The same is true in space, where a small country or a small amount of investment with a very novel capability can change the game. And I'll give you an example. England was not the biggest country in the world when they dominated the navies and the global commerce of the open oceans. They were one of the smallest, but they dominated the global economy for centuries because they optimized deep sea navigation, a strong navy, and a shipbuilding industry. That is what we might find that New Zealand is the most powerful country in the world in 50 years from now because they built the right space capability and they reap the benefits of a global energy market, a global telecommunication market, because they were the first ones to come out with a cell phone that not only can see a cell tower and communicate with anybody, but it recharges naturally through a trickle because of the radio waves coming from solar power in space. You can see, you build one of those, and now everybody in Africa can have one, and you don't need any infrastructure. You don't need any power grid. You don't need any outlet to plug your phone in and recharge it at the night or at 9 o'clock in the morning if you use it like I do. So you can see how novel and useful inventions, taking advantage of the space network architecture, can transform any economy, large or small. It's just about which person in which civilization comes up with that idea that taps into these trillion-dollar markets. The first trillionaire on the planet will be somebody that's investing in space.
Wow. Now, Steve, you have been a role model and leader for hundreds of thousands of service members over the course of your career. So I'm wondering if I could close today by asking you if you have any thoughts that you could share with me on how others can be better role models and help teach young people about the value of living their lives in service to others.
Well, you're kind to say that, although again, the true hallmark of leadership is how well you serve others selflessly. So humility is the key. Humility doesn't mean you're passive. You can be aggressive. And life is a competition, and it's rough and tumble. So for me, if I only have 10 seconds to talk to somebody about leadership, I'll say, have thick skin, be humble, always give other people the credit, and trust your team to do great things.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. That's so concise and so amazing. So
it's not new under the sun, that's for sure. You read thousands of leadership books, and it kind of all comes down to those basic things. But that's hard. We're human beings. There's arrogance and pride that gets in the way. Our feelings get hurt. We get damaged over time. In the rough and tumble of life. So it's easy to say those words. It's really hard to practice that, meaning have the discipline to actually do it, not just know it or say it. So it's a lifetime journey of work and breaking old habits, forming new habits, and forgiving yourself, forgiving others, and moving on.
That's wonderful. Steve, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate this very much. And let's build a space economy as a human race that solves many of the problems we created in the industrial age.